me as a toy maker and Azhelle, and like I think we need to stop and think like what we are doing is somehow helping to that situation or is making it worse. The same way we do with mesh toys. So why are we so focused on creating eco-friendly toys to help with the environment, or mesh toys to help with mental health, or STEM toys to empower girls and like kids to be better in math, or like why are we doing all of those things and we're not questioning ourselves? Why are we still playing with guns?
You are listening to Making It in the Toy Industry, episode number 175.
Welcome to Making It in the Toy Industry, a podcast for inventors and entrepreneurs like you. And now your host, Azhelle Wade.
Hey there, toy people. Azhelle Wade here, and welcome back to another episode of the Toy Coach Podcast, Making It in the Toy Industry. This is a weekly podcast brought to you by thetoycoach.com. Today's episode is a really sensitive topic. So I'm telling you, if you normally listen to this podcast with kiddos in the background or an earshot, I might recommend turning this one off for them and watching it later when you've got some time alone. Now, I'd been unsure if we should really address this topic on the show, but after I met with my friend Marjorie Spitalnik in our little podcast planning session, I knew we had to. So, based on a report by ABC News, as of May 1st, 2023, more than 13,900 people have been killed in gun violence in the U.S. That is a rough average of 115 deaths every day. Of those who died, 491 were teens and 85 were children. As of May 1st, there had also been 184 mass shootings in the U.S., and a mass shooting is defined as any situation where 4 or more people are shot, and there have been 13 K-12 school shootings so far this year. Now, since we all work in the toy industry, and it's our kids and our teens that are under attack, I think it's important that we have this conversation about what we can do if there's anything. Now, joining me on this podcast today is Marjorie Spitalnik, the founder of Little Rebels, the Plush Doll Line, currently available at Macy's, Frost Museum, Michigan Museum, Discovery World, Air Museum, Museum in Flight, and over 15 specialty toy stores across the U.S. Now, Marjorie has been a guest on this podcast before. If you want to hear her older episodes, head over to thetoycoach.com/15 or thetoycoach.com/151. Now, MJ always seems to show up when it's time to have tough conversations, and she's the one that is allowing me to have those conversations. And I say allowing because it's not easy to put yourself out there and talk about hard topics, and doing it with a friend makes it all the more better. So, Marjorie, welcome to the show, and thank you for being willing to have this talk with me today.
Thank you for having me. I love being in this show. So every time you actually invite me in, for me, it's kind of like, yay, I'm going to be at a Azhelle podcast again. It's kind of like a little win. And yeah, it is a hard topic. I agree with you. But also, I think it's our responsibility as toy makers to address this because it's affecting, as you said at first, is affecting our kids. So what can we do as toy makers, if there's something we can do actually to just open the conversation? I know this may there might be people that are gonna get really mad at us. I'm aware of that. I'm up to it. Like I think this is a tough topic, but it needs to be talked about. So yeah, if they
Yeah,
get mad, I'm so sorry in
we
advance, but yeah, we need to do it.
we are sorry.
I don't want anyone listening to the podcast to feel that we are attacking their freedom. That's not what this is about. I want to like let that crystal clear from the beginning of the episode so nobody get offended to it. We're just trying to open up the conversation to, as toy makers, is there anything that we can do to help reduce the death, especially between kids and teens? Like all that, of course, but like teens and kids are our audience, so that I think it affects us directly. And the other thing that I'm gonna say before going in is like, I get the fun on the guns. I used to play with my daughter, like battles, then paintball, then laser tags. We used to be like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for me to actually talk about this and not feel some irony in what I'm talking. But like when I try to sit down and really think like what's the real impact that toys have in kids, then that's when the conversation starts, because there's a lot of studies out there that shows that the way kids play when they're kids and what they choose to play with have a huge impact on their careers, for example, when they grow up. Let's say dolls. Why do I have Little Rebels? Why did I create a Little Rebels? Because I'm trying to empower girls to become engineers, mathematicians, scientists, whatever they want to be, no matter the gender. And
Mhm.
it's like scientific fact that the way they play and the toys that they used to play as kids have a positive impact when they grow up. So with that in mind, if they have a positive impact, they can also have a negative impact. It's it kind of goes both ways, right? It's not just, oh yeah, it works positive because it's convenient for me, and then we leave the negative out of it because it's not good for the business. Like, this is the ugly truth of this, but it's how it is. And I do get that some guns are really fun, like bubble guns or water guns, or like they are not created to harm anyone, but kids at very young age might lose the perception of what's right or wrong
Let's back up a
coldly.
little bit. I want to first talk about like the impact of general toys on kids. So, for your product specifically, I'd love an example, since I have you here, of maybe reviews you've gotten from parents or messages you've gotten from kids after they played with your product saying, "Oh my gosh, your product taught my daughter about Amelia Earhart. She'd never heard of her before. Now she wants to be a pilot." Has that ever
Yeah,
happened?
yeah, that actually, I have a bunch of stories, and that's one of my favorite. No, that's one of my favorite parts of this business. We do get like a bunch of stories of parents that reach out to me, and then, for example, you mentioned Amelia. There was one mom that sent me a picture of her daughter sitting inside of a carton box that she created as an airplane, playing with her Amelia, saying that she was gonna be a pilot when she grew up. And then another mom that did the same thing with a kid, a little girl as well, that she put chairs together and she literally built a plane in the living room, like with the chairs, and she was
Oh.
sitting. Right, that was amazing. I need to find that and post it. So she had like the entire row of the plane passengers, and she was
Oh,
the
that's
pilot
so
piloting the.
cute.
And then, and the same way that we're empowering girls and like sharing those stories, boys also, like I have a lot of moms that comes to me and say, hey, thanks to your dolls, my boys are now treating their sisters differently.
Oh, interesting.
I have two cases. One, it's like he's very small. I think he's around 3 or 4 now. I don't remember, but it's like whenever it was diaper changing time, he will get his Amelia and he will literally put like the cream. And like, it was funny because she wrote me and she was like, the quality of your plushes is insane. And I was like, oh, thank you. And she was, no, 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 you have no idea how many times did I had to wash it already,
Ah!
because my little boy, every time I go and do the diaper change on the baby, he brings Amelia and he changes her diaper as
Oh, wow.
well,
So
but
the
he
boys
actually
are
puts
using
the
her for
cream.
nurturing.
So it's clearly impacting in many, many ways. And then there were two siblings that I met in Brazil, and I gave them one Malala and one Marie Curie.
Mhm.
And then a few months later, the dad wrote to me to thank me, and he said, like, if it was not by your dolls, my kids will never hear about these women. And now all they talk about, like, they go to school and they share with their friends how brave Malala was, because even though she was shot, ironically, she stood up. And so they learn about courage and resilience and speaking up. So nowadays, when they don't agree with something or they see somebody like being bullied, they will speak up, and that's a direct consequence of your doll. Like
That
that was like wow, like I know that my dolls have an impact. That's why I'm doing them, right? So like I'm trying to empower these kids, but actually hearing that and like getting the feedback from directly from the parents telling you like this is the impact is now, it's not on the future only. It's like literally happening. We can see it happening on a daily basis. So
yeah.
yes, toys do have an impact for sure.
Yeah, and we often see these posts. We were talking on LinkedIn where people are talking about the importance of STEM toys and mesh toys, STEM toys to help kids build their knowledge of like math and science, and then mesh toys to help kids deal with their social, emotional health. And everyone wants to say like toys can have such a positive impact on kids, which is great. And nobody's talking about how toys could also have a negative impact on kids. So
Exactly.
I want to go to something that you said where you brought up a really interesting thought. And that was we are introducing toy guns in the form of bubble guns, in the form of Nerf guns to kids at such a young age. And then after they're introduced to this gun that they're allowed to shoot their friends with, and their friends are okay and they're pretending to get hurt, they go through life, and life is difficult and challenging, and we don't know what challenges they'll have. We don't know what emotional distress they'll go through, and they go through that after being given this toy gun. And how do we know where that lands in their psyche if they have a difficult life, if they have a difficult upbringing? And I thought that was a really interesting observation. Can you talk more to that?
Yes, I had this conversation yesterday also. And it's like the fact that they're playing with gun makes them automatically mass shooters? No, definitely not. That's not what I'm saying. But if a kid goes through a lot of bullying or they're like being mistreated or they feel an injustice or like life has been really, really hard on them and they have a very easy access to guns and they are used to use guns because they're playing with their video games so they know how it works, or they're playing with their toys so they know that if they get a gun like they can go on and shoot everybody with no consequences because it's a game. I don't know, I honestly don't know, but I think that at some point in their psyche, as you're saying, they lose the sense of what's right and wrong.
Or even
Like
what's real?
some of them, exactly. Some
Yeah.
of them might be so affected by what happened to them that they really don't like, I don't know. I'm trying to think about those mass shooters in schools, particularly. Most of them were bullied kids. They were really angry and they entered to like revenge their bullies and end up killing innocent people that had nothing to do with it. But why is that? Because their perception, the reality, like they lose sense of reality and perception. I'm not saying again the fault is the toys. I'm just saying that the toy at some point makes shooting fun when it should not be fun.
Oof.
Like it shouldn't be fun to kill your friend.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I heard like one of my best friends, she's a doctor, and a few stories that she brought to me throughout the years was you have no idea how many kids die or get hurt by accident because parents have guns in their houses and they're playing or they think
Right.
they're playing. So when they shoot, thinking nothing's gonna happen and they're just gonna pretend to be like, oh yeah, I'm dead and blah, and then they
Yeah.
will come back to life,
Yeah.
then tragedy happens. It's not like there's their intention. They cannot distinguish what is play from what is reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that there's a responsibility in us as toy makers to like ask that question. Like, are we making shooting somebody fun? Shouldn't be.
Yes.
If
Are we
that's what we're
making
doing,
guns
we're
fun?
doing wrong.
Right. That's like the main focus. Like, are we making guns too fun? You said that when we first had our conversation. Why are we making guns
Yeah,
look like so much fun? They're so colorful. It's interesting because toy guns are colorful so that you know they're not real guns, right? But when we
Yeah.
look at that little kid that had a toy gun and then actually got shot, it's like obviously that doesn't make enough of a difference. And then the
Yeah.
gun is still a gun and it's still giving that idea that it's fun. And if we believe that a doctor set toy for a kid can inspire them to be a doctor, why is it so hard to draw this line of a gun toy can inspire a kid to go shoot things they shouldn't be shooting? Like, why is it so hard to draw that? So say somebody wants is clear and this message is getting to them and they're like, oof, you're right, I've never thought about it that way. Maybe our guns are influencing kids at too young of an age. Maybe we need to talk about, should there be an age limit? There are certain products out in the world that you're not allowed to buy at a certain age. Should there be an age
Maybe.
limit to play guns?
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Right.
Honestly, I don't have the solution, and we're
Right.
not here to bring a solution or to say like this is right and this is wrong. We're just
Starting
like
conversation.
debating something that really bother us, and we're trying to look for solutions, but between all of us, maybe setting a minimum age is a way to go. Maybe instead of, like, I don't know, having it gun shaped, we can change the shape. I don't know, there's a bunch of toy designers super creative out there. Can we make bubbles that don't come out from a gun?
Right. Why does it have to
Can,
be a bubble
like,
gun?
why does it have to be shaped as a gun? Maybe it doesn't have to. Like, maybe it doesn't have to be shaped as a gun. It could
Right.
be, I don't know, like, I'm really
Like
bad at
a
this, but it could be
wristband. It could be a
like,
wristband with like discs that fly out.
exactly,
Right.
or like a ring that you do like this, and
Yes.
all the bubbles come out. I don't
That
know,
actually
but
sounds
the
very
fact
cool. That
that
sounds cool. But the fact that our first thought is to make it a gun is maybe the problem. And maybe we're not taking enough responsibility as an industry for the fact that we're introducing these to kids at such a young age and making it too comfortable and making it too comfortable. It's fine. If they want to grow up and they want to learn, go to a shooting range and they want to learn how to shoot, that's their prerogative. But when they're young, are we as an industry?
that's enough.
Right. It's on us. There's something to be said about people who are your elders guiding you so that you can hold off on experiencing things that might be too much for your mind to handle early on so that you could experience them later and decide when your like brain is fully formed whether or not this is something
Yes.
you want to engage in and bring into your life and a responsibility you want to take on.
I do know that they have a legal minimum age to buy gun. That I knew. What
Yeah.
what I'm thinking is, just like as you asked first, should we make a minimum age to toy guns as well? Like, and we were
Right.
talking on our prior to this podcast, like there are stores and actually toy companies that do not work with toy guns. There's a reason
Right.
why they don't.
Right. Right. And
So, I mean, why they don't, why don't they, like, what's stopping them from selling? Because they're losing a lot of, like, a big portion of the market, refraining to selling toy guns. But there's a reason why they are not, and that's because it's aligned with their mission or their concept of what a toy can do or should do. And I remember, like, the reason why we started this podcast actually was a post on LinkedIn that was
right.
thank the toy industry for the fidgeting toys creations to help the victims of mass shooting cope with the trauma that they had.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, yes, I love that we have that as a tool to help them cope, but we shouldn't have them at all at the beginning. Like, this shouldn't be a problem. Like, kids should not be shot at their schools. Like, they should be safe at schools or going into a movie or going into a concert or like having fun with friends. It's
Yeah.
insane that you can, like, I don't know. So yeah, I'm grateful that we have toys that help them cope, but maybe we should rethink the way that we are providing toy guns toys to our kids and the access, maybe limiting the age access, maybe looking for the same mechanic,
Yeah. Different shape
but
products so that you're
just
not.
to say, I mean, I get the fun behind it. As I was saying at the beginning of this episode, like I really have a lot of fun. So like this is a hard topic for me to talk about it, but I'm 40.
Right.
Like, and the truth is, I did not start playing with this kind of things until I was like a teenager, maybe. I don't
Right.
remember having gun toys around me when I was growing up as a little girl. I do
Yeah.
remember that then when, yeah, I was maybe 15, 16, 16, my friends had like the water guns, and we start on summer playing with water guns and doing water battles and stuff like that. And then came paintball and laser tags. But I was like older. I was not 5, I was not 4, I was not 6. Like I was more or less already shaped. I'm not like I'm still shaping my mind, but like
Yeah.
at least I can distinguish between reality and fantasy and what's like I think that's the main issue. Like at what age maybe we should get in touch with a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a professional
Ooh,
that can tell us.
yes.
So hear me out. This is the age where the psyches of the kid can distinguish between reality and fantasy. And that's the minimum age to play with a toy gun.
That is a very
Because
good idea.
they
Yeah.
will understand what's reality and what not. Because like kids at very young age, they have
Right.
imaginary friends.
Yeah.
And they're 100% convinced that their friends are real.
Right.
And they will set up a plate for them at the table, and they will talk to them, and they will interact with them. And for them that imaginary situation is real, and so is shooting a friend. And
Right.
if on top of it it's fun,
Like it's just like that's just not why would we feed into that when it's so
yes.
easy? I mean, so easy. I know there's probably millions of dollars. I wish we could define the figures, like how much money is spent on toy guns. But maybe there's a new way to approach that and just change the design of it, like we're saying. It's not going to be easy, but change never is. It doesn't mean that we don't need to do it.
I mean, this is an uncomfortable conversation to have,
Yeah, yeah.
but somebody has to start it. And we like we need to start talking about this, and we need to start
Yeah.
seeing the impact. And again, we cannot be so hypocrites, how do you say it? Hypocrites
Hypocritical.
in hypocritical, thank you, I'm sorry, to come out with a very strong speech about how mesh toys help in mental health and STEM toys help in developing skills and like all the positive attitudes, and like
Dolls help with
neglecting the negative.
nurturing and yeah.
Like
And Legos
seriously,
help
come
with
on.
building and but we look at toy
Exactly.
guns
Like
and we're like,
we're literally developing like the stress and finesse and like your skills. Like why you go to a kindergarten, like Montessori, for example, methodology is all through play. Why? There's a reason why it's all through play. It's because you learn better through play.
oh my gosh, yeah. It's kind of scary when
Well,
you think about it. It's scary. It's
it,
scary to think because like water guns are different. There are other guns that like hurt when you hurt somebody. Water guns, at very least, you're not hurting somebody, but there are some toy guns I've played with that like when you hit the other person, it hurts them a little bit. And it's just this like subtle psychological shift that you have to do to like have fun while hurting your friend. And it's like a
yeah,
little hurt.
exactly.
It's little. It's a
That's
little thing. But
like,
it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
you're having fun hurting other people. Like that's the entire
It's
goal of the game.
yeah. It's so
So like nobody stopped to think about this. But when you
yeah.
really stop to think about this, like in code,
Mm-hmm.
leave all your, I don't know, beliefs behind for a second and just
Right.
like go through the most raw thought that you can have about the dynamics of Valorant, for example. Wait, I just
Yeah.
remember something that most people must haven't forgotten, but if you're born in the 80s like I was,
What?
we used to have chocolate cigarettes
Oh, yes.
growing
I
up.
remember. Yes. Hold
And it
on.
was the best thing ever. And you were super cool. And we used to play that we were smoking our chocolates.
Oh my gosh.
And heads up, like I was a smoker a lot. Like I smoked during a lot of years of my life.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I'm not saying blame on the chocolates, but like I spent my entire childhood playing to be a smoker, and I grew up to be a smoker. We used to play that it was cool to be out
Right.
there smoking. And actually, I think that we used to have toys that were cigarettes as well.
Wow. And like what happened to that? Obviously at some point someone said this is not okay because we're
This is wrong. Exactly. We cannot keep doing this at some point, and I don't know when they disappeared, but I remember that they disappeared from the market eventually.
I found this article about those candy cigarettes, and it says, quote, this is a truetreatscandy.com, said, quote, while many anti-candy activists cited the artificial or otherwise unsavory ingredients in candy, their objection to candy cigarettes was different. They wouldn't kill you exactly, but they would ruin your life. One of them, Reverend
Oh,
James E. Smith, declared in 1902 that these candies may look harmless, but they are leading the minds of our boys toward temptation, and they are enticing our children to become drunks and cigarette fiends. The Reverend was far alone in his the Reverend was far from alone in his crusade. There are other people who were in 1906 fighting against this. Wow. Wow.
yeah. I remember like I used to work in advertising for a long time, and whenever like there was a moment in advertising that you needed to be very careful with drinking products, like
Mhm.
whenever like a brand of liquor came in, and cigarettes, because like Marlboro, when they had like that cowboy coming in
Right.
and smoking, he made it look cool. And so that entire generation, which is my generation, we grew up thinking smoking was the coolest thing ever, and all kids wanted to smoke. And then there was 90210, the TV show where Dylan used to smoke, and Dylan was the hottie one. And so everybody wanted to be like Dylan. And then, like, I don't know, Grease. There's so many examples on how young minds are influenced by what they see and what they
Yeah.
have access to.
Apparently, candy cigarettes were indeed banned in the US in 2009 under the FDA's Family Smoking Prevention and Control Act. The debate behind the FDA's the debate behind the FDA's decision was based on studies showing that candy cigarettes led to cigarette smoking. Interesting.
I'm not saying it's 100% the chocolate cigarettes fault, but I grew up playing that I was a smoker, and I later became a smoker. So yeah, that has to be some influence in somebody's psyches eventually.
So I'm looking on Wikipedia now. So I think the US ban was peeled back a little bit, but it's candy cigarettes banned in Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Chile, Finland, Ireland, Kuwait, Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Thailand, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom. Then there are some caveats because Canada has federal law prohibits candy cigarette branding that resembles real cigarette branding, and then the United States says that candy can't be labeled as cigarettes. So interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel it's a weird, tough conversation to have.
Yeah.
And but like it's not that we're saying stop manufacturing toy guns. It's just let's rethink the impact that we are having
Right.
by creating those toys. Let's
Yes.
stop and rethink if should we address it to a specific age range?
Yeah.
Should
Yes.
we shape them differently? Should we change the dynamic? Should we just put a warning sign that says like not advised for childs under
Yes.
a certain age, like this may be a trigger. I don't know, trigger warnings before the commercial. I honestly, I don't have the answer, but I do
Right.
know
We should
that
think
at
about it.
some point, and again, we're not saying, and for me, it's super important that this is crystal clear. We're not questioning the rights to have guns. We're
Mm.
not questioning the right to have toy guns to produce. Like, we're not going against our peers in the industry that are manufacturing or selling them. Like, this is important for you to understand and to like make sure that this is super clear. I'm a mom. I live in South America. I consider a gazillion times to move to the US. And honestly, one of the things that always kept me from moving,
Hmm.
it's the guns. Because like I'm scared to send my daughter into school and she would never come back. And people tells me, oh, you get used to it. Like they do how is this called? Like drills. And I was like, what? I don't want my daughter like going into a mass shooting drill in school. Like that cannot be normal. Like that horrifies me. And
Yeah.
then maybe you're gonna say, oh, MJ, you're too naive. Well, where I live, we do not have drills for mass shootings in schools. I'm not
Yeah.
saying like a tragedy cannot happen. Like a couple of friends of my daughter were mugged the other day on the street. Of course those things will happen. Like I'm not that naive. What I'm
Right.
saying is like what we do as toy makers can have a positive impact on reducing those mass shootings somehow. That's my question. It's like
Hmm.
I think we need to sit down, stop and think like what I'm doing as a toy maker, is it making it better or worse? Am I improving the situation or am I helping escalating it? And I'm only bringing this to attention because how many mass shootings you said there were? Like we're May and it's over 100 mass shootings already.
Yep.
May, that's insane. We're not questioning what you're doing with your business. We're not attacking anyone. We're not criticizing our peers' businesses. We're not messing with the people that are making guns. Like again, I'm one that have a lot of fun playing with bubble guns and all those kind of things. So it's not that. Don't get me wrong. It's just that this problem it's increasing, and me as a toy maker and Urgel, and like I think we need to stop and think like what we are doing is somehow helping to that situation or is making it worse, the same way we do with mesh toys. So why are we so focused on creating eco-friendly toys to help with the environment, or mesh toys to help with mental health, or STEM toys to empower girls and like kids to be better in math, or like why are we doing all of those things and we're not questioning ourselves? Why are we still playing with guns?
Do you have any suggestions for somebody's first step for what they could do if they want to reevaluate how their company might be influencing kids' minds with gunplay? I have an
I
idea.
would that's a that's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, I from a
well,
designer perspective, I would say look at your assortment and count how many gun shaped or looking products you have. Figure out the revenue of those products so that you understand the financial risk to making any adjustments to them. And then I would do a design exercise to redesign those gun toys into a different shape so that you could still have the play but not have the connection to like a gun. That would be the first thing I would think. And see how buyers respond to it. If you pitch them this new weird shape, are they going to be like, "Why is this just not a gun?" Or are they going to say, "Oh, thank goodness, we were waiting for somebody to refresh this line so it doesn't have to align with all the horror that's going on in the US right now."
you know what, I think
What?
this most likely the answer they will get is, why are you not bringing me a gun? Because that's what
No, you don't
they're
know.
used
You
to.
don't know.
No, I don't know, of course I don't know, but I
Yeah.
mean like I think the exercise needs to be done
Yeah.
for sure. And I feel it's like a responsibility. Like, I mean, and you might say, yeah, we're going to lose a lot of money. But the same way that big companies like Mattel are investing a ton of money of making Barbies that showcase all the colors of the humanity.
And sizes. Yeah. That wasn't like a huge
They-
financial win
And
right away.
they just launched like a new Down syndrome line Barbie, and
Yes.
they have
Yeah.
like, so, and that was a huge investment for them, and that
Mm-hmm.
was also a huge change of mentality, because they like, even though Barbie claim was always you can be everything, right? Barbie was you can be everything. Even though that was the claim, like the iconic Barbie that we all grew up to was the blonde Barbie, perfect shaped, like, even though she was dressed up as a flight attendant, she was still perfect, like physically. And they were all the same. And
Yep.
then Mattel at some point said, wait, no, we do not all look the same.
Yeah.
We do not all have the same style. We do not have all the same sexual orientation. We do not all share the same genes. And they decided to invest a ton of money to make that shape. There's a reason why they did that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's because they are looking around the world they're living in and realizing that today's society is not the same as when Barbie was launched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So my advice would be, maybe sit down, just like Mattel, and then kudos like to Mattel on doing that, and do the exercise to see if, like, I'm not saying get rid of all your gun toys, but what if you launch as a test a toy that does exactly the same thing, but it's not shaped as a gun?
Love
Just
it.
test it
Yeah.
and see what happens. And if
Mm-hmm.
that's a hit, then replace it and remove the gun
Yeah.
shaped one.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go and lose all your inventory and lose all your money, but like, that's not
make
what I'm saying, because they're
make an
gonna hang me
effort.
out.
Make an effort toward the change.
Exactly. Go a
Yeah.
little bit above and beyond the regular. Like, do your part if you can. And I know you can. Like, we're constantly having this pitch competitions asking for inventors to come up with ideas. Put that in your list, in your wish list.
Yeah. Oh,
When you
yes.
inventors to come up with ideas, or you go to like Otis design school and you have, I don't know, like, ask them to come up with new ideas on how can you use the same dynamic shaped differently. I'm sure there's gonna come a bunch of cool ideas. Like, I just threw you the
The
ring
ring.
one. Use your wish list for the good when you're looking for new products, like when you're asking inventors to come up with new ideas. Put that in your wish list and say, hey, help us reshape and redefine the gun word. How would you play it? How would you use it? How you to do it? I don't know. That's
And it
what
has the
comes to my
added
mind.
benefit of like this is a great initiative that is also marketing gold. Being that company that does that, it's marketing gold and it's good for the kids that we serve and we create products for. So, yes. Well, MJ, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. If anybody wants to learn more about the resources that we were citing while we were talking, head over to thetoycoach.com/175. And I'll put the links there. Also put the links to contact MJ if you want to talk with her about her line and become one of the many stores carrying it, or if you just want to talk more about this topic.
Do not attack us, though.
Yeah, do not attack us. We're just starting conversation. As
Exactly.
always, thank you so much for being here with me today. I know there are a ton of podcasts out there, so it truly means the world to me that you tune into this one. Until next week, I'll see you later, toy people.